Hey yo, thanks for tuning in to The Source, your source for celebrity news. Alright y'all, I'm back, and I have a question for y'all. If Jonathan Oddie was telling the truth the whole time, then does that also mean that DJ Khaled and Rick Ross are gay?
Mark Garrett has had the FBI on me, has had other agencies looking at me and spying on me, okay, because they wanted to set me up as an extortionist, like if I was extorting Sean for money. It's wrong. Basically what happened is Diddy and Ross, which they're good buddies, okay, they're gay.
Who?
Both Diddy and Ross and Khaled, they're all gay. Okay?
DJ Khaled, Rick Ross, and P. Diddy?
Yeah.
They're all gay?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Jonathan Oddie was over there blowing up spots. But here's my question. If DJ Khaled and Rick Ross are actually gay, and I say that with a really big if and an asterisk, but if they are actually gay, do you think that DJ Khaled's wife knows? And also, do you think that all of Rick Ross's women know? I mean, for real, do you think that they tell these women up front that they're gonna be beards? Or do you think that they're over there lying to the women? And also, let me know something else. Why do you think that in 2025, it's so difficult for all of these rappers to just be who they are? I mean, for real, if you wanna skip through the daisies with your bare feet, then don't put on the Timberlands. Just skip through the daisies with your bare feet. Let me know in the comments, and while you're down there leaving a comment, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I mean, for real, hit that like button, because if you haven't noticed, I am extremely shadow banned. So if you could get those likes up really quick, I would appreciate it. Alright, so let's get into it. Week 1 of the Diddy trial is officially in the books, and boy, did we learn a lot. Some of the highlights from week 1 included Cassie taking a stand to give her testimony, Cassie being cross-examined, and then Dawn Richard getting up on that stand, taking an alley-oop from Cassie, and hitting us with a reverse double pump through the legs slam dunk. Alright, so during the first few days that Cassie was on the stand and she recounted her harrowing story of dealing with Diddy, a whole lot of people were like, oh my goodness, Diddy's a monster. But then, after Diddy's team cross-examined Cassie, a whole lot of people switched up and they were like, oh no, Cassie was down with the get down, free Diddy. For example, one person said, y'all gonna hate me for this, but it's given, I guess I'll see you next lifetime. Maybe we'll see butterflies. And then somebody else was like, for the people in the back, 19 years old is old enough to consent to the military, marriage, and having babies and being a freak. The only illegal thing Diddy did was DV. The trial has been about morality and not legalities. And then after that, somebody else was like, this is DV, not a RICO. Yeah, wrap this up. That man don't deserve life in prison for domestic disputes. Then somebody else was like, DV is the biggest charge I see here. What are we doing? And then last but not least, somebody else came through and said, Cassie didn't prove anything except for the fact that Diddy's an abusive narcissist that's addicted to corn and baby oil, and that doesn't equal RICO charges. And to my surprise, even Willie D from the Ghetto Boys chimed in and dropped a video in which he insinuated that Cassie Ventura just may be a gold digger.
Do she have any responsibility in all of this? You better believe she do. You better believe she do, because I am under the same impression as that woman in the video who said that if Diddy was plain old Sean from the factory up the road, she would not have stayed in that relationship for 10 years getting her butt whooped. She would not have done that. She would have been out immediately. She would have been gone. So why did she stay? She stayed for the lifestyle.
Okay, so after I heard Willie D say that, I'm sitting over here like, I know my mind is playing tricks on me. Listen, can somebody please ask Willie D to do another video in which he explains why women who are stuck in relationships with deadbeat unemployed men also stay when there's DV? That's what I want. Anyhow, for all the people out there who are like, yo, Diddy innocent, free Diddy, because Cassie ain't proved no RICO, let me explain something to you. As I read through a whole bunch of these comments, it is becoming very apparent to me who the people are who don't have a proper understanding of the law, who don't understand what this case is about, who can't synthesize information, who don't understand what a RICO is, and also who those people are who don't understand what it means to build a case against somebody. So what I've decided to do today is to jump on here and explain the basics, because it's ever so apparent that a whole lot of people out there are all up in the Kool-Aid but don't even know the flavor. Alright, so let's start off with one of the biggest misunderstandings that I keep seeing online. First off, this is not Cassie Ventura versus Sean Combs. This is the United States versus Sean Combs, which means that Cassie Ventura is simply one witness out of many that the prosecution is using to build their case against Diddy. In other words, imagine you're a construction worker who's building a house. Cassie is simply one brick that's being used to construct the house. Therefore, even if you didn't believe that Cassie was credible, that still does not mean that Diddy is innocent of the charges that are being levied against him. 2. A whole lot of people are out there like, nah, sauce, because, she was down with the freak-offs. Listen, once again, even if she was down with 365,000 freak-offs, it only takes one. Therefore, if there was only one time in which she was like, no, I don't want to do this, and he forced her to do it, that is illegal. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can give you an example that y'all can understand. Imagine you have a friend and you and your friend are mad tight and y'all are friends for 10 years, and every day for like the 10 years you and your friend get along perfectly. I mean, they treat you like a king or queen every time they see you, but then on one particular day you go to visit them and they switch up. I mean, it's like Jekyll and Hyde, and they turn around and pow you in the kneecaps. Now, would it be fair for me to say to you, listen, who cares whether they pow you in the kneecaps, because for 364 days out of the 365 days they treated you like a king or queen. What I'm trying to say is this: even if Diddy didn't coerce her 99% of the time to do the freak-offs, once he says to her, I will show this video to everybody if you don't do XYZ, even once, that is coercion. And I don't think that a lot of people are understanding the fact that the law doesn't say that Diddy has to coerce her every time. The law says that Diddy is guilty if he coerced her one time. And that brings us to all of the people who are like, yo, Cassie ain't proved no RICO. Oh my goodness. Like I said before, the prosecutors didn't put Cassie Ventura on the stand to prove the RICO. They put Cassie on the stand to build the foundations for the RICO. So for all the people in the back who don't understand the law or how to synthesize information, let me show you how Cassie Ventura's testimony actually successfully laid the groundwork for the prosecutors to prove that P. Diddy was over there running an illegal organization that ultimately is going to be the foundations for them to prove the RICO. See, all the news reporters and the YouTubers and the Instagrammers and the TikTokers are getting so caught up in the sensationalization of the information that Cassie was saying that they failed to connect the dots. Alright, so if you give me a minute, I'm getting ready to put my Columbo hat on and I'm gonna do what nobody else is doing for you. I'm gonna build the RICO. Alright, so first off, what's a RICO charge? Under RICO, a person can be charged with racketeering if they commit at least 2 acts of racketeering activity from a list of 35 crimes, 27 federal crimes and 8 state crimes over 10 years. And those acts are related to a corrupt organization. And what's a corrupt organization? A group of people who get together and do illegal things. Now, under racketeering, any violation of state statutes against gambling, murder, kidnapping, extortion, arson, robbery, bribery, dealing in obscene matter, or dealing in a controlled substance or listed chemical, as defined in the Controlled Substances Act, or any act of bribery, counterfeiting, theft, embezzlement, fraud, dealing in obscene matter, obstruction of justice, slavery, racketeering, gambling, money laundering, commission of a murder for hire, and any other offenses under the Criminal Federal Code make you guilty. Now, like I explained before, under RICO, the prosecutors only have to prove that P. Diddy did at least 2 things on that list to support the charges against him. Alright, so let's think back. During her testimony, Cassie set up the play for the prosecutors to prove that P. Diddy blew up Kid Cudi's car. Guess what? That's arson. Cassie also let it be known that P. Diddy likes to deal with the controlled substances, meaning he has a network of doctors that give him scripts, and he also has delivered these narcotics to her under fake names. So, how many violations does that give us? 2, which means that even if you don't believe anything that Cassie said regarding the freak-offs and you don't believe that Diddy coerced her and forced her to be an ex-slave, they still have him on a RICO. Which brings us to the fact that during her testimony, a lot of people didn't notice this, but Cassie was dropping names, and when she was dropping names, those names were helping the prosecution to set up the fact that Diddy was over there running a corrupt organization. Alright, so let's take a closer look at this. We all know that Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, aka the Diddler, is the alleged ringleader of the organization. But once you start looking under P. Diddy, you start to realize that a corrupt pyramid scheme begins to form. Alright, so you got P. Diddy. P. Diddy decides that he no longer wants to promote Cassie's career even though she's under contract for 10 albums. So he gives orders to James Cruz, who's the then president of Bad Boy Records. Now, during her testimony, Cassie said that she was trying to figure out why her career was deaded, and she went to James Cruz, and James Cruz basically said that he was unable to promote her as an artist because his hands were tied by Diddy. We also know that after Cassie and Diddy got into one of their major clashes in which Diddy gave Cassie a 2-piece with a biscuit, he sent James Cruz to go to her house and tell her that if she didn't contact him immediately, he wasn't going to promote her album. Alright, so you gotta remember that James Cruz is the president of Bad Boy Records. Therefore, Diddy and James Cruz are both using their power and authority because, remember, Cassie is an employee. They're both using their power and authority to try to get Cassie to do something. In other words, they're stifling Cassie's ability to generate income unless Cassie obeys Diddy. Cassie also let it be known that James Cruz, along with Diddy's longtime bodyguard, Uncle Paulie, definitely knew that Diddy was over there abusing her because, according to Cassie, one time when he was putting his hands on her in a bathroom, they all saw it. Alright, so let's get this clear. Your immediate supervisor over there at Bad Boy Records, which is James Cruz, who is the president of Bad Boy Records, sees you, the artist, getting a 2-piece from Diddy in a bathroom, but yet, no HR involvement, no nothing. And I know, somebody's gonna come to the comment section like, nah, Sauce, Cassie got free will. If she really wanted to leave Bad Boy, she could have left and signed with somebody like G-Unit. No, she couldn't, because you have to remember that Diddy signed her to a 10-album deal, which means she can't leave Bad Boy until she produces those 10 albums. And guess who controls the timeline of the production of the albums? Diddy. Now, the fact that Diddy actually did not try to make successful albums with Cassie just goes to show you that he didn't sign her because he wanted her to be an artist. He signed her because he wanted to control what she could do. I also believe that part of the reason why P. Diddy initially signed Cassie in the first place is because when he first saw her, she reminded him of a younger version of Jenny from the Block, aka J-Lo. And I firmly believe that part of the reason why Diddy signed Cassie in the first place is because he wanted to exact a little get back on J-Lo by basically bringing in a new younger version of her into the industry. But his plan backfired because even though Cassie can sing, she's not the all-around performer that J-Lo is. See, everybody who knows Diddy knows one thing about him. He doesn't create anything, he replicates things. Which is why, as soon as Biggie died, he went out and signed Shine. Why? Because Shine sounded exactly like Biggie. And as soon as he got Shine to finish some of the vocals on Biggie's second album, he didn't need him anymore. And I truly believe that once he realized that Cassie was never going to take the crown away from J-Lo, he didn't really need her anymore either. Except to satisfy his carnal urges. Because after him and J-Lo broke up, he still wanted himself a little J-Lo. But enough about that, let's get back to the corrupt organization and building this RICO. Similar to James Cruz, Diddy also used his chief of staff, Christina Quorum, to help keep Cassie in check. According to Cassie's testimony, Diddy used to use Christina Quorum to keep tabs on her, and then after Christina Quorum found out what she was doing, she would report back to Diddy. Now, according to outside information, i.e. some text messages that have not yet been entered into evidence yet in this trial, Christina Quorum also allegedly booked some of the hotel rooms for the freak-offs. She also made sure that she had the correct illegal Tic Tacs delivered to Diddy for the events. As a matter of fact, in one of her text messages, Christina Quorum wrote, "Hey, PD needs a drop-off for the following, please. 4 of those young coconuts, 7 bottles of baby oil, and 7 bottles of Astroglide." In an interesting twist, some sources have also alleged that prior to becoming Diddy's main personal assistant, Christina Quorum was also blinked by Diddy when she was younger. Wow, that right there is some serious Blink Twice-ish if I ever heard it. I mean, do you guys remember the assistant in Blink Twice? Source, can you please do me a favor and can you post that text message where Christina Quorum is talking to somebody else and she's telling them what they need to give Diddy? Because I want you guys to see this so that you know that I'm over here spitting facts. Now, all my day one A1s know darn well that when I say something, I like to support it with the receipts. But I'm also showing this to you so that all of the new people who just found this channel also know too. Later in her testimony, Cassie also said that P. Diddy would use a dude named David James to do the exact same thing. Alright, so far, who do we mention? James Cruz, Christina Quorum, Uncle Paulie, and David James. Alright, so let's continue. Cassie goes on to say that one night in LA, she was just catching it from Diddy, and Roger Bond saw what was going on, so he ran over and broke it up. But instead of reporting it, he actually told her to go back to the hotel. During a similar incident where there was mad evidence of what Diddy did to Cassie, they put her in a hotel, and during that stay, a woman named Genevieve came in and gave her ice cream, which means that Diddy had that woman posted up there because she knew what was going on, and her job was to keep tabs on Cassie. So even though she was very nice and she brought Cassie some Mr. Softy with some sprinkles, some whipped cream, and a little fudge, she was still one of Diddy's handlers. Similarly, even though Cassie seems to have a friendship with Diddy's security guard D-Rock, he knew everything that was going on because on several instances, he was like taking her to the hospital or giving her ice to put on her face. Now, speaking of hospitals and doctors, Cassie also testified that Diddy has like a network of doctors that are on call that don't mind prescribing him all types of ish under fake names, including Frank Black. But once again, I want to point out the fact that P. Diddy is so unoriginal because if you remember, back in the 90s, the Notorious Big was B.I.G. aka Frank White. So now, this ninja right here is going to run around for the rest of his life going by the code name Frank Black. Oh my goodness. Anyhow, in addition to the doctors who are over there doing illegal stuff, Cassie also said that Diddy had two drivers, Malik and Raheem, who often delivered her narcotics on behalf of Diddy. Last but not least, Cassie also said that Diddy had some dude named Frankie Santella who used to procure party favors for Diddy at Diddy's behest. We also know two other things, even though we don't know the people's names yet. We know that some of Diddy's security guards would pay off the escorts, and we also know that Diddy had some sort of makeshift cleanup crew that used to come into some of those hotel rooms to clean up the mess. So Source, can you do me a favor and make sure that the RICO board is up? When you start to see all of the players who are working for Diddy, who do things to contribute to or cover up his unlawful behavior, you start to see the making of a RICO, because this is what you call a corrupt organization. And I'm more than sure that as this trial goes on, more and more people are going to start being put up on this board. Now, let's jump over to the baby oil conundrum real quick, because during the trial, the attorney asked Cassie if Diddy was putting something in the baby oil, and she was like, no, not to my knowledge. So everybody was left scratching their head because they're like, listen, if there was nothing in that baby oil, then what in the world is up with P. Diddy's addiction to the oil? Especially when people found out that the day before the feds picked him up in New York, this dude had not one bottle, not two bottles, not three bottles, but bags of baby oil in a closet in a hotel room and mad baby oil in a bathroom. Alright, so after the special agent took the stand and he basically said that Diddy had mad Johnsons and Johnsons in a hotel room, I was just sitting over here like, yo, what in the world is going on? And then I sat down and thought about it, and this is what I came up with. I believe that P. Diddy has a corn addiction, and he's bumped and grind so many times in his life, and also has watched so much corn that regular intimacy and watching regular stuff just doesn't do it for him anymore. So, because the regular TV stuff and the computer stuff doesn't do it for him, this dude done went out and got him a whole bunch of paid actors to do it right in front of his face. And based on what I've seen, I don't think that Cassie was ever his girlfriend. I think that what Cassie was his personal corn star. I just don't think that she knew it. Now, I know, somebody's gonna come in the comment section like, Source, but that doesn't explain the baby oil. Okay, so where the baby oil comes in is this. I believe that when P. Diddy was reaching puberty, he used to watch that real greasy, seedy stuff, you know, those 1970s, 1980 movies on Skinamax. So he's over there trying to recreate that early 80s greasy vibe.
This was the first time when I was 12. I used to watch this thing called Midnight Blue. It's like this channel here in New York. So the first time I had sex, I wasn't scared. I remember it felt so good to me. Like other people say it was scared, like it felt so good to me. And I really was impressed by the way I was this young lady. You know what I'm saying? But I just remember how impressed I was because I used to watch Midnight Blue and how I felt like I was just as good as the porno stars I saw like in Midnight Blue.
See, this is what I believe. I believe that when P. Diddy was young, Janice Combs used some of that rug money from Diddy's father to go out and get cable when it first came out. Now, anybody who's over a certain age is going to understand what I say when I say it next. I believe that when that cable box first came into the house, P. Diddy was home alone playing with that scrambler, and he realized that if you hit the right buttons and you get that dial just right, you can see skin flicks on Playboy and on Cinemax. Now, I believe that he was over there ODing on the movies, and that's how the addiction first started. But then I believe that over the years, all of those movies stopped doing it for little Diddy. So, in his twisted mind, he decided that he was going to create his own. Hence, in my estimation, the freak-offs are nothing more than real-life corn movies for Diddy. And that's why his black behind is sitting in a corner with a baseball cap on with a scarf over his mouth, looking mad freaky. And that brings us to Dawn Richards' bombshell testimony, in which Dawn alleged that she personally saw Diddy being violent towards Cassie because he felt that she didn't make his eggs right. Now, I don't know if this ninja wanted some scrambled eggs and she made him some sunny side up or what, but according to Dawn, this ninja wilded out. Dawn alleges that after she saw what she saw firsthand, Diddy told her that it would be best if she kept her mouth shut about the incident because people who talk always have a way of mysteriously disappearing. Now, after Dawn said what she said, walked off the stand and then walked past Diddy like what? A lot of people jumped on social media and tried to argue the fact that Dawn is simply a disgruntled former employee who has her own gripe to pick with Diddy because she never became as famous as she wanted to be, and a whole lot of the people who are arguing that Dawn is lying also point to the fact that Dawn's bandmate Kalina Harper from Dirty Diddy Money defended Diddy and also said that Dawn is just salty. Alright, so all I have to say about that is this. I believe Dawn is extremely credible and that she told the truth 100% when she was up on that stand. And as far as Kalina is concerned, according to sources, Kalina was an active party of Diddy's corrupt organization because, allegedly, before she got married, Kalina used to prefer to be with women, and Diddy used to use her as bait to reel in chicks that he knew that he could put in the same position as Cassie. So instead of wondering whether or not Dawn Richards is telling the truth, what we may need to be doing is putting Kalina Harper up on that Diddy Rico board along with Diddy as one of his co-conspirators. And listen, if you thought that what Dawn Richards said on that stand was explosive, then you just wait till Aubrey O'Day gets up on that stand. It's gonna be off the hook because Aubrey O'Day has been waiting like 20-something years for this moment. Now, let's get real serious for a minute. A whole lot of people are using Cassie's text messages as proof that she was down with the get down. For example, during the trial, Diddy's attorneys furnished a text message in which Diddy was like, "I miss you already." And then she was like, "Me too." And then Diddy was like, "When you want to freak off, LOL." And then she responded, "LOL, I'm just going to change. I'm always ready for a freak off, LOL." And then Diddy was like, "You tell me the day, you choose." And then Cassie responded by saying, "It could be whenever." And then Diddy was like, "Name the night." Alright, so first off, Cassie already acknowledged the fact that in the beginning of the relationship she really wanted to please her man. So she was willing to do the freak-offs, but she didn't want to do them all the time. And I know, somebody's going to come in the comment section like, "Source, that explains like the text messages about the freak-offs that she made like in 2008, 2009. But what explains the text messages where she was down with the freak-offs in like 2017? Alright, I want you to listen to me and I want you to listen to me closely. Context matters. Therefore, we don't know what happened in their relationship the day before this text message was sent. As a matter of fact, we don't even know what happened 5 minutes before this text message was sent, which means that we don't know the context of what was going on in their relationship prior to this text exchange, right? Stick with me. Now, what that means is that we don't know whether or not Cassie was having this conversation from her free will or if she was trying to appease him because she knew darn well that if she didn't say what he wanted her to say, there could be dire consequences. So we don't know whether or not she's saying this because she really wants a freak off or she's saying this because she does not want to get hurt. See, what a lot of people need to understand is that sometimes when you're in these relationships with powerful men like P. Diddy who have handlers and they have security guards and they have all of these people that'll find you and bring you back, every day is not about the great escape. Some days are about surviving another day so that eventually you can escape. And I'll say this once again, even though I already said it and it's getting redundant. It does not matter how many times Cassie Ventura said yes to Diddy. What matters is the times when she said no to Diddy and he forced her into it using coercion by saying things like, "I'll put out this tape." Now, let me show you something that a lot of people glossed over, and listen, when I tell you what it is, there's no pun intended. But after CNN released the hotel hallway tape, P. Diddy and his people were like, nah, that's not the whole story, release the whole tape. And guess what? The court obliged. So the other day they entered the whole tape into evidence. Now, the clip that CNN showed was like 2 to 3 minutes, but the entire tape is 15 minutes long. Now, I'm getting ready to play this, and I want you to notice something very interesting. Right after Diddy finishes getting her, she runs to the phone and she calls security. But then, right after she calls security, I want y'all to check out the first thing that Cassie does. This young woman actually stands there and puts on some lip gloss, which tells you that she has been bottle rocked so many times that she has actually been desensitized to the violence. Source, can you please play the clip right when she calls security?
This video is supposed to be the video of the encounter in the hotel lobby with Sean P. Diddy Combs and Cassie, as Cassie was trying to leave. And we have seen clips of this video before. Diddy's team had said that no one has seen the full video so they could form a unbiased opinion. Well, the feds have now released what is supposed to be the full video. As you're watching this video, I want you to pay attention, because although they said that they have released the full video, and the video is supposed to be 15 minutes long, I've watched the complete video and I found out that this video, the actual video, was probably about 6.5, 7 minutes long, and they just looped it and showed it from a different angle. So there you can see Diddy and her arguing. She's trying to leave, like she said in her testimony, which we will talk about when we go live again, because Cassie just explained what happened in this video. They had just finished a freak off, one of those freak off sessions that had lasted days. She was exhausted. She had a huge event that was coming up, which she described as something, the biggest thing she had ever done so far. And she was telling Diddy that she doesn't want to stay at the hotel, she wants to go. And then they started arguing, and she didn't want to get bruised up. Oftentimes she said she would get and she would end up with a black eye or something like that, and then she wouldn't be able to be her best at this event that's coming up. So she wanted to preserve herself for the event. So what we're seeing, as she described it in court, was her trying to leave. This is after the freak off. This is not him trying to keep her so she can do a freak off. They already did the freak off. She was asked in court, well, you know, why'd you do it? She said because she wanted to go to this event, and she knew that when he's at his happiest, she gets what she wants. So this would make him happy, so she did the freak off. And in doing the freak off, she was expecting to be able to go to the event for herself.
Alright, so did you just see what happened there? As soon as Diddy gets finished doing what he does to her, she runs to the phone, she calls security, and then she puts on a lip gloss. That's not even a normal response. You know what that is? That's a trauma response. As a matter of fact, let me know what you think down below. Is that a normal response, or is that a trauma response? I mean, for real, think about it. If somebody just gets finished giving you the junkyard dog / the superfly snooker, do you jump back up and just put on some lip gloss? No. What's happening here is that P. Diddy done cuffed up Cassie's mental state so much that she no longer has normal responses to the violence. So when Cassie said that when she finally left Diddy, she ended up with PTSD, I believe her 100%, because with these dudes, it's all about power and control. And as a matter of fact, let me quote Lil' Kim, when it comes to dudes like Diddy, it's all about money, power, and respect, because they believe that's the key to life. Now, I'm also going to say this, and a lot of people aren't. There's also one other thing that you need to keep in mind when you wonder why Cassie didn't leave. And Dawn Richard's testimony sort of touched on it, but they didn't totally go there. I've had the opportunity to talk to some producers who have actually worked with Diddy. And when I asked them, why don't y'all go off when this dude wilds out? You know what they all tell me? They tell me that the reason why they don't say anything is because Diddy got bodies, and they're not talking about Tupac or Biggie. Now, does he really have bodies? I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm just telling you what these dudes told me. So, if these rumors are true, you gotta understand that if you're Cassie and if you're in her shoes, there are some things that you really have to consider before you make a run for it. I mean, for real, you gotta be like Nicki Minaj and make some calculations.
So x to the power of 3 is x times x times x, right? And x to the power of 2 is just x times x.
Oh, I see. They cancel out.
Exactly. And then we're left with just x, which is the same as x to the power of 1. Okay, now what's the rule gonna say if we had x cubed divided by x cubed?
Would that be x to the power of 3 minus 3?
Which is x to the power of 0.
See what I'm saying? You gotta calculate some ish. Now, while I personally believe that Cassie Ventura did a phenomenal job setting up the RICO for the prosecutors, I also know that Diddy's team only needs to convince one juror, whereas Cassie and the prosecution have to convince 12. So, it's still an uphill battle for the prosecution. And in order to take away all of his money, his power, and respect, and give him life, the prosecution is going to have to put a whole lot of people on that stand to corroborate the foundations for the RICO and other charges that Cassie just successfully laid. Listen, let me know what you think about everything that we talked about in today's video, and while you're down there leaving a comment, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends. Hey yo, thanks for tuning in to The Source, your source for celebrity news. Peace.